I have some super interesting things to talk about tonight. Let's get done with the boring one first. Not that it's not important, but it didn't get my blood pumping quite as much as the other two. The first one is that we have seen some new legislation pop up in support of eliminating fees for EFTs. These are specific for insurance reimbursements. So if you are a dentist that currently receives your reimbursements through an EFT or an electronic funds transfer, as opposed to a physical check, and you may be being charged fees to have the convenience of receiving those EFTs, there is now legislation out hoping to eliminate that additional cost to dentists in processing those EFTs. On a personal note, I can tell you it seems much easier and less costly than receiving checks and having to pay postage. Also, you have a lot of more human error when you're having to manually enter in those data points as opposed to operating on the digital platform and being able to transfer it into accounts a little bit more seamlessly that way. You also do tend to get reimbursed just a little bit quicker because of that EFT processing faster than what the mail will deliver. But it does seem a bit unfair to take especially if you're in network, to already be taking the write-off adjustments, the decrease in fee reimbursement, but then also being charged probably a merchant services fee on the part of the patient who chose to use a credit card to pay you for their balance, and then an additional fee from the insurance company for their EFT. So is that 25%, 28%, 32%, or even higher in some states? It does start to marginally make a difference. So it's nice to see some movement in the legislation with that. The other interesting story for tonight, the FBI actually sent out a pretty massive cybersecurity warning that came out earlier this week. It actually impacted multiple industries. So there was a huge FBI warning that came out earlier this week, but it's been, no pun intended, drilled down in our industry to oral and maxillofacial surgeons. For some reason, there's a heightened risk that they are on the target list for a cybersecurity attack, or that there's been a threat made. So the ADA has posted a big warning for those individuals who own oral and maxillofacial surgical centers to ensure that you are up to date on all of your malware, that your firewalls are in place, your IT team is prepared and vigilantly watching what's going on. But it's also just a quick reminder that while oral maxillofacial surgeons are being specifically targeted in this most recent cyber threat, that all dental practices are equally as vulnerable. And if we haven't seen that pretty handedly with the Change Healthcare cyber attack that occurred, almost 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, that has still shut down a good portion of the reimbursement piece for doctors to be able to submit claims and be paid on those claims. So we're already seeing the big issues that are going on with that. The next thing that's going to come out from the Change Healthcare is going to be there's already been a huge threat for the HIPAA violation of individuals that were processed through that exchange. So lots of activity in that world, doesn't seem to be slowing down, but it was super interesting that the oral maxillofacial surgeons were specifically identified in this latest threat. Okay, my friends, this one's really important for you to pay attention to. Effective July 1, the Department of Labor has now changed the standards for overtime pay eligibility. And this may impact dentists, depending on how you're currently paying your employees. If you're paying anyone that's making less than $35,568 or $684 a week, currently, that is the threshold to be eligible for overtime pay. That minimum is going up. As of July 1, the minimum payment or minimum salary range will be $43,888 or $844 per week. Meaning, if that individual as a salaried employee is exceeding 40 hours a week, you will be responsible for paying the difference in overtime fees to that particular employee. Even more impactful, January 1 of 2025, that number will go up to $58,656 or $1,128 per week. So if you have an office manager, an administrative team member, maybe your dental assistants are being paid salary. I don't think this will directly impact dentists or dental hygienists, but certainly other support team personnel that are in dental offices. If they make less than $58,656 as a salaried employee, they will be eligible to file for overtime if it exceeds that 40-hour allotment per week. It's really critical that you make note of those changes and that you're watching the hourly allotments for those particular employees, as you don't want to be in violation of these new changes. Certainly speak to your accountant or whoever is managing your payroll for more details. But this does go into effect in July, July 1 specifically. And then as of January 1 of 2025, this will be reviewed and re-upped every 3 years. And with that, that's the news.